There's very little written about his life in those first 30 years, but the few things that are written, we can learn something. In Luke chapter 2, he was 12 years old and he went to the temple. We read in Luke 2:42, he became 12 and he went to the feast. And when Joseph and Mary were returning, he stayed behind in Jerusalem. He stayed behind. While all the other boys were, playing around, he stayed behind. It was his choice. But his parents were unaware of it. And the parents found him after 3 days, verse 46. They had traveled quite a bit of time, maybe more than a day they had traveled, and they suddenly looked for him and they didn't find him. They were all traveling as a community of a whole lot of people, like going for a conference, a whole group of people. And they assumed, even for 36 hours, they assumed he must be somewhere else with one of the other boys. And it's only after 36 hours they discovered, hey, he's not here. And they walked back the 36 hours and discovered that Jesus was in the temple. This shows us one thing, that it took a long time for them to walk from Nazareth to Jerusalem. Remember that whenever you read in the Bible that Jesus walked from Galilee to Jerusalem, that wasn't a couple of hours, it was 1.5 days at least. Because these folks walked 1.5 days and 1.5 days back. So little things like this show us how Jesus lived. Anyway, when they came to the temple, they found him, verse 46, in the midst of the teachers, listening to them and asking them questions. And all who heard him were amazed, first of all, at his understanding of Scripture and his answers. So, the first thing I learned about Jesus' life, which made him pleasing to the Father, was that he had a tremendous knowledge of Scripture, even though he didn't have a Bible at home. You want to be pleasing to the Father? That's the first thing we read about Jesus.